Greetings, all! Today, we will be examining the uncommon rock-type Pokemon Bonsly, the Bonsai Pokémon, and its relatively rare evolution Sudowoodo, the Imitation Pokémon. Though they might not always be the best at doing what they are designed to do biologically, the members of the Bonsly family are fascinating creatures that can certainly take mimicry to the extreme in order to eke out a living in the wild. Bonsly have small, pot-shaped brown bodies of rock with a raised rim at the waist area that they move around on with two small digitaless feet, their face being adorned with a yellow spot on the front and yellow eyes. The top of their form has a tree-like growth on it, with three green orbs of rock in a triangle shape that help to make the creatures look as a whole like a walking potted plant. Their evolved form, Sudowoodo, have a taller, more elongated body form with several yellow spots in their body like false knotholes, and while they still walk around on two rocky feet, they also now have a pair of arms that sprout outward and end in three green rocky bulbs, each in a triangle pattern. Their eyes are small and black, and their mouth wide with a red interior, and the top of their form has a Y-shaped prong of cylindrical material, giving the impression of a top set of branches free of leaves. The members of the Bonsly family are unique among rock-type Pokemon in that their true specialty lies not in rock-hard defenses or incredible offense, but instead in mimicry. In particular, these creatures mimic plants to survive in the wild. It is unknown exactly why this specialty was taken up by these creatures, but it is the one thing they are known for more than anything else, as they are very good at standing completely still in order to blend in with foliage and anything green that might be around them. This is often to the dismay of wild Pokemon and trainers alike, as while they might look like ordinary plants, even when not trying to disguise themselves, their outer bodies are made completely out of rock, including the green bulbs in their body that are supposed to mimic greenery. This can make them tricky customers for first-time trainers to encounter, but it is made up by the fact that they are not necessarily the strongest of their kind and thus can be easy to target with the right offenses and/or defenses. Despite this, these creatures are masters of their technique and can make good use of it, as well as their awkward forms, to deal substantial damage to anything they encounter, including having access to some moves that might otherwise betray their basic anatomy on the outside. In addition, their rock-hard forms allow them to withstand strong blows for at least some time and allow them to attack recklessly with little consequence, granting them access to the sturdy and rock-head abilities as base abilities, while those that are a bit more skittish than others and are easily frightened can have rattled as a hidden ability. And looking at their stats, in the case of Sudowoodo, their mimicry skills are wholly necessary for them as combatants, as while their base defense stat is above average for fully evolved rock-type Pokemon, the rest of their stats are below average in value. Even so, they can still make good use of the moves they can get access to, and make for an interesting encounter that most novice trainers won't forget for a while after encountering one of these creatures in the wild. Bonsly are classified as baby Pokemon, and they typically are not supposed to exist in the wild in most regions. This is because they're actually a mutation brought on by parent Sudowoodo being in the proximity or contact with rock incense while they are producing an egg, and because of this mutation, these creatures lack some of the key features of their evolved form. This mainly includes access to moves that require them to have actual limbs to attack, as well as some of the stronger moves that Sudowoodo get late in life, in turn limiting their combat abilities noticeably. They can't even use Mimic at birth, instead being stuck with the more primitive copycat technique instead. However, they can eventually master this move and learn it in the Mimic technique, and once this move is under their belt, these little creatures can finally evolve into their true adult state. Despite being weaker than Sudowoodo, Bonsly are still surprisingly strong for baby Pokemon and can make good partners for some time, but it is noted that they tend to prefer to live in arid conditions and cannot stand to get wet. This is mainly because their bodies are much more porous than that of Sudowoodo, and thus they have a harder time regulating the amount of moisture in their body, often living in even more arid environments than Sudowoodo are comfortable living in order to help this along. They need this regulation because their weaker bodies can easily be eroded and dissolved by extensive contact with water, and in order to help keep themselves in one piece, these little creatures will often remove excess water from their system from their eyes, making it look like they are crying. This liquid is similar in form and composition to human sweat, and while the liquid that comes from their body alone has a salty taste, whatever comes from their eyes also has a notable bitter taste. While it is easy to see if they are getting better, as the dull luster on their green bulbs will grow stronger as they dry out, it can be hard to distinguish this regulation from actual crying, as the faces of Bonsly tend to go along with their water removal, making them look very sad on a frequent basis. This isn't enough to make them a hassle to work with, and the creatures are usually friendly enough to shed their skittish demeanor if someone is willing to protect them. But it is recommended that they be given special care to get past this until they evolve, since it can be hard for many trainers to tell when their Bonsly is actually sad and not just expelling excess moisture. Compared to their pre-evolved form, Sudowoodo are able to make good use of their rocky forms to bash others, using their fake branched arms to strike with a slam attack they gain access to immediately after evolving, as well as Stone Edge, Hammer Arm, and Wood Hammer attacks with a bit of artificial help, and the deadly Head Smash attack late in life. However, it is noted that, despite their access to fairly powerful attacks, Sudowoodo rarely ever like to get into direct confrontations with others, instead using their mimicry skills to pretend to be a tree, waiting motionless and forced where they can live in relative peace and blend in to some degree or another. While they might look a bit silly, it can sometimes be a bit hard to differentiate them from certain types of trees, and their tenacity for doing their best to mimic whatever is around them has led them and their peaceful demeanor to be quite popular among older people, with an entire magazine even being devoted to them, where specimens with the largest and most lustrous bulbs, and those with specific arm lengths and position angles, being considered the most beautiful. However, for as good as they are at mimicking things, they do have some flaws that keep them from being perfect. The biggest of these is the fact that these creatures are terrified of water because of their rocky composition, and even if the lightest rain starts to fall, they will instantly run away from wherever they were standing and find shelter until they know for certain that it is dry and safe for them to come back out. This can make identifying them pretty easy, as even a small splash of water can have the same effect, though they have been known to act aggressively towards those that spray them on purpose, plus they can stick out if they are the only dry tree around after a serious storm. In addition, because their bulbs are always green, they can be easy to spot in the autumn season, and their occasional twitching movement can rat them out if there is no wind blowing. Despite all of this, these rare creatures seem to manage quite well in the wild for themselves, and can definitely make for good partners to work with, so long as you can keep track of them when outside, and not lose them when traveling through forests where they might blend in readily. While they might appear to be fairly silly in their forms and mannerisms, the members of the Bonsly family are interesting creatures that can make good use of their mimicry skills to hide in plain sight and keep themselves from being easily disturbed. They might not always be perfect in their work, but it's done well enough to get their kind this far, and it's unlikely it's going to change for the worse anytime soon. Just do yourself a favor and keep a close eye on where you go when in a forest populated by any number of these strange rocky entities. Get too close or accidentally spill some liquid on them, and they will gladly take a brief moment to make their presence known by bashing you hard with their rocky bulbs before going right back to pretending to be something they are not. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
Yeah, no.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.